Welcome, Jhonelle.
Thanks. Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, one of the things that I really admire about you, and I looked at your TikTok, I watched your videos, is the fact that you're really online, you're sharing your experiences with others. And one of the experiences I had while at the this past year's TikCon was meeting people virtually anyway, who really feel scared or not scared so much, but just nervous about sharing their stories.
Yeah.
It can feel embarrassing. It can feel stigmatizing. And yet you have been doing this very publicly on TikTok, on Instagram, YouTube for several years now. So can you tell me a little bit about the, I'm interested in courage here because courage is something that isn't easy to learn. So how, when you were first diagnosed and decided, I'm gonna share my story with others, what was it that brought you to do it? How did you develop the courage, in other words, to actually start doing your podcast and your series?
Yeah. I definitely think courage is the word for it. It was something that I had kind of considered doing for a couple years, but never fully did just because, again, like it was something that I had kind of hid from people in real life, had a lot of like masking in terms of like masking my tics around other people or just suppressing, just doing different things like that. Probably only like one handful of people knew in my life for over like a long period of time. So I don't know what exactly it was. I feel like typically there's times in anything, like maybe it's courage to do something that's scary, like you're jumping in a pool or something, it's like a high height on the diving board, you're scared. There's just this like little tiny moment inside of you where you feel like you could do it. And it's, I guess, like gripping onto that. I was able to finally grip onto that. And even in that, it still took me forever. Like the first time I had posted about even having Tourette syndrome or just dealing with anything I was dealing with, I had wanted to post it on the beginning of Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, which is like May 15th. And I that sat in my drafts for like a good 6, 7 days, just because I knew like there's kind of like no going back. But I just took a moment where I felt like, okay, this is it. And I had it set up to where I had already typed out everything I was gonna say. I was gonna hit post, and then I was about to go to I had something to do. So I was going to be driving. I was going to be at an event where I wasn't really going to be on my phone. So I didn't have to worry about what people responses were going to be or anything like that for a couple hours. And I feel like that's kind of how I had to set it up. I think if I was just at home, I would not have had the courage to do it. But because I had things to do, I was like, cool, it's out there,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah. And then thankfully I had a lot of positive responses from it, and then that kind of helped my courage to continue on and like post more about it, answer people's questions, things like that.
Yeah, that's great. In the Beyond 6 Seconds podcast, it was a really fantastic interview with Carolyn Keel.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned that you're in your community, you're Jamaican American,
Hmm.
in the Jamaican community, the Black community here. TS is often not readily acknowledged, and I wanted to ask you, because think about TS is such a, in some ways, it's a condition that confuses people a little bit, and they don't understand it fully.
Right.
And so they don't always, want to acknowledge it. Since your diagnosis, do you have any particular strategies or steps that you take within your community that maybe you could share with others that they could then use in their own communities? You
Hmm.
talk about TS.
Yeah. I think, like I said, in part of like finding the courage to be able to share and talk about it and seeing like other TS advocates online, it was hard to find people that looked like me. Um, and I knew that that was something that I would have wanted when I was younger, when I was dealing with more of like a bigger influx of tics in high school. And so I just decided to kind of keep sharing and hopefully find other people, that looked like me doing so. And in doing so, I've met people from other communities as well. Like I have my friend Michael. I know he's Filipino American. He's talked about his experience, and how TS is not necessarily something seen in his culture, and been able to talk to some other people too, and kind of share the similarities in that. But yeah, I think just even in me sharing is a way to show that it does happen in every community. Tourette syndrome and tic disorders is not just something that happens to white males, which is like a misconception a lot of people
Yeah,
have.
yeah, I agree.
So yeah, that was something that I'm able to share. And from that, I've had other people reach out to me that are saying like, oh my gosh, like I'm so happy to find another Black girl that has Tourette syndrome or, is talking about mental health or talking about things. Or I'm so happy to find like another Jamaican that's doing that because it's just not something that's
Yeah.
really talked about. And I know it just that mental health in general is not really talked about. So I think even in me posting about it, sharing things about it, educating people, that it is to making a difference.
Yeah, great. And have you found a little follow-up to this? Have you found that there's an expanded awareness in your communities about Tourette syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, from what I see, as in like my community, like in person, one person, definitely. Just in terms of like acceptance of maybe like other things that they might be dealing with too, or acceptance of like this is a thing that exists and it's not just something that's somebody's making up, or it's not just an excuse. A lot of times people see like me ticking or a kid ticking or doing different things. It could look like um it could look funny, but it could also sometimes look like purposeful behavior, even though it's involuntary. So that's why I think it's important, because I've been able to see that change happen for other people, accepting it or considering like, okay, maybe this kid that's doing this, maybe it's not something that they're able to control, whether it was Tourette syndrome or not, or a sensory issue or something else. Like they're at least able to kind of take a step back and like pose that question versus just assuming that, it's just something that somebody's doing on purpose.
Okay. And so one final question for you, Jhonelle.
Mhm.
In what ways has going public in such a visible way, have you found that and your advocacy have helped sustain your mental health?
Yeah, I think it's definitely brought me some more confidence. I think there's sometimes just the ups and downs of dealing with Tourette syndrome, like there's times that I'm like, oh no, I'm fine with it. Everything's cool. And there's other times, maybe there's like a new tick that's popped up and I'm like, I really don't like this one. It makes me look ugly, whatever, even though that's not the truth. It's just how you feel dealing with the ups and downs of the condition. But I think in general, speaking about it, or when I went to my 10-year like high school reunion, I had obviously had to go and talk to a bunch of people that I knew that when I was dealing with my tics didn't know what was going on, and then now I have a name for it. So a lot of people were able to kind of, say like that they really enjoyed seeing my videos and like like understanding and like connecting the dots to what was happening back then, and that it's helped them like in ways of like being more understanding. And so anytime I hear something like that, like that my videos are helping somebody or helping educate somebody, that's definitely helped me out. I think with posting, there's always little stuff that might pop up with like people online, like commenting like negative things because again, it's the internet. But
Yeah,
I try my best to ignore those and not, not argue with people in the comments and stuff, just for my own mental health.
understood, understood. So Janelle, where can people find your videos and where can they find you online?
Yeah. You can find me on pretty much everything. I mostly post on Instagram, TikTok, like he said, YouTube occasionally, but there's a lot more editing in that, and I'm not a huge fan of editing videos. So, but there is still really valuable stuff there. You can find me there. My name, Jhonelle Bean. So that's Jhonelle, underscore Bean, like the food, Bean, on any platform.
Okay, Janelle, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate it.